The operations team waits for the mail to come in. Once it comes in, we open every single letter and read them. We then scan the letter and the envelope into Google Drive. We set up a letter writer file.
Enter them into the Salesforce database and pass them on to the folks who would do the letter reading.
My part in the process of getting a letter to receive a grant is I'm sent letters to read each week, and I usually do a first read of it and let it sit for a couple of days. And then I go back and read it again, look for details, take some good notes and so forth. And from there, I make a decision about whether the letter should go forward to the application process, or if it's a particularly difficult letter for me to make a decision on, I would bring it to my ladies of the Thursday table. And there we would discuss it as a group. Ideas and suggestions would be given. And then ultimately, I would make the decision about whether the letter should move forward or not.
We are the first eyes to read the letter, which I think is really important because our motto, every letter read, is a promise. And so I think of the letter readers as the ones who keep that promise.
Once the letter readers say yes, that a letter would move forward, the operations team mails out the applications.
From there, once someone was into the pipeline and received those applications, scan everything into the computers and pass them along. What was really interesting is that often we would find out what happened to those letters that came in.
Like if someone gets denied, then we might send a denied letter, but say, here's some resources you might be able to tap into. To come full circle, once a applicant becomes a grantee, they often will write a thank you note in, and we would open those thank you notes, read them, and also scan those into the system.
After their letter has been submitted and then reviewed by the letter readers, and when the letter readers gives it the great okay, then as an application specialist, I receive their info, and then I start to collect their application data.
There were many steps during the application process, and for a Spanish-speaking applicant, the application was in English and Spanish, but there are certain times where they need support. For example, asking if certain pieces if they would be accepted as part of the application, answering any questions they had, and reminding them with any deadlines that were necessary for them to complete.
The data collection is intense. It involves collecting important financial and private information, such as their tax return records, their bank account records, including credit card statements. It includes collecting their mortgage or rental statement verifications. We find out what other sources of income they have. We also want to verify whether or not they need things taken care of that require estimates. If so, we need to collect their estimates and things of that nature. So at large, it's quite a bit of back and forth with the applicant about getting them to turn in all of the required documents before we can proceed.
It's my job to support and encourage the applicant to finish the application by sending in all the documents that the Letters Foundation requests to support the person to follow through to the end until they're ready to be handed off and assigned to a program officer.
As a program officer, my part of the process is to work directly with the constituents to hear about their situations and what they need help with. And then I work with them to review their budgets, and I speak with their references and suggest any resources that may be of assistance to them.
I create a case synopsis for the constituent. I vet the constituent by doing background checks, and then I make the initial phone call. I kindly ask them to retell their story, how they came to write the letter. I absolutely set the expectation that receiving a grant is not a guarantee. I assure them that I will be their advocate and we will work as a team. I also remind them that the final decision on whether they receive a grant is not mine, but I will work my hardest on their behalf.
When we're done working together, then I provide all of the information to our funding committee. And if a grant is awarded, I work with the constituent until they have received whatever their grant was for and their funding is complete.
The Small Grants program came from a wonderful moment in that where all the letter readers realized that we have some very simple things that we could address if we actually had a program that was a bit different than our regular grant process. So I am fortunate enough to sit in with the letter readers, and they will bring a letter forward that they think would be appropriate for a small grant. Once that letter is identified, I then connect with the letter writer, the constituent, and get additional information, and hopefully we together sit down and build a case for the committee to consider their grant.
We saw it, we created it, we developed it, we administered it. So I'm very proud of it, and I'm very pleased with it.
The part of the research is that there are lots and lots of people that are writing for grant money. And sometimes there may be resources available to them that they're not aware of. So it's not that the Letters Foundation doesn't want to help them out or give them a grant, but if there is a resource, whether it's a municipal resource or a government resource or even a private resource that will accommodate them and answer that question, it's great because it saves grant money to go to somebody where you don't have a resource. So that is my role, is to look at resources available for people that can take advantage of those. And, maybe save us a little bit in grant money, and it actually stretches out your dollar.
As a researcher, my part with getting the grant issued is to educate the applicant and also the volunteers, so it can be both external and internal process, just providing additional information to applicants that may not be eligible for a grant or that may need to provide additional information, as well as informing individuals that volunteer for the program how to be able to better assist an applicant.
When a request is not approved and doesn't culminate in a grant, we provide valuable, customized information so that the letter writer, the requester who's reached out to the Letters Foundation, doesn't just receive a short "no thank you" and they're sort of back to where they began. We can look at alternative ideas for resources within the community in which they live, providing the letter writer with satisfaction and additional resources so that the trail doesn't end here and they can keep on looking for the help that they need.